Hello to all Cinemaster lovers. Hope you enjoy watching. Let's get started. In an ancient spot, doors open, releasing demons that would destroy humanity. The strange thing is that one of these demons is the one who ends up saving humanity. In ancient times, there was a constant conflict between humans and demons, and the Blood Queen, Nimue, used her evil magic to spread a plague among humans. This plague was on the verge of wiping out the entire human population, but then came a young king named Arthur, who stood against Nimue with his group, which included the wizard Merlin. Arthur tricked Nimue by pretending to surrender to her, and at that moment, Nimue fell for his deception and lowered her defenses. In that instant, one of the soldiers threw a spear at Nimue, piercing her body and pinning her to the tree behind her. The dark creatures around Nimue tried to intervene and save her, but Merlin used his magic to keep these creatures away. Nimue didn't die from this blow because human weapons couldn't kill her, and at that moment, Nimue started spreading the plague again. At that moment, Arthur drew his sword and cut off Nimue's arm to stop the plague. Then, with one single blow, he decapitated her. However, Nimue's magic was incredibly powerful, and she could transfer all her blood into the tree behind her. King Arthur then separates Nimue's body into 6 pieces, placing each part in a separate box. His wizards sealed these boxes to prevent her from returning to life, and the 6 boxes were buried in different parts of the world. 1,000 years after this event, Hellboy, a supernatural investigator, was tasked with finding the hiding place of vampires. He assigned one of his colleagues to the mission, but after 3 weeks without any news from him, Hellboy had no choice but to go and look for him himself. Hellboy went to the arena where his colleague was usually found. There, he discovered that his colleague had lost control and started attacking Hellboy. Not only that, but his strength and speed had significantly increased. Hellboy took the situation seriously and stopped going easy on his colleague, launching his own attack. He managed to fuck him up, but Hellboy was shocked when he removed the mask from his friend's face. His friend had turned into a vampire and began savagely attacking Hellboy with his claws. At that moment, the referee intervened, raising a cross in front of the vampire to distract him. It worked, but the vampire then attacked the referee and was about to kill him. Hellboy stepped in just in time, grabbed the vampire, and threw him against a corner post of the arena, which pierced the vampire's chest. The vampire returned to his human form as he was dying, but before he died, he told Hellboy that the end of the world was near, and it would come at his hands. Hellboy returned to the Bureau of Paranormal Research and Defense, BPRD, but before he could rest, his father assigned him another mission. Hellboy then went to the Osiris Club, an organization similar to the BPRD, which had been fighting the forces of darkness for centuries. There, they told him that long ago, giants ruled the earth and humans fought and destroyed them, but their bodies still remained underground. What frightened them most was that the giants turned into zombies after death and would rise from their graves to kill humans. Hellboy set out with a team from the club after learning all the details of the mission. Initial investigations revealed that the giants first appeared in the forest, but when Hellboy and his team arrived there, they found that the giants had moved on and discovered many corpses in the area. The group followed the footprints and decided to set a trap for the giants. However, while they were waiting in ambush, Hellboy was betrayed and stabbed in his back. The one who attacked him was a member of the club, and the real purpose of the mission was to kill Hellboy because the end of the world would be happened by him. Hellboy jumped off the bridge when he found himself surrounded, but the knights of the club didn't let him go. They chased after him and continued stabbing him with their spears. Hellboy was strong, but the numbers were overwhelming. After the knights struck him with their spears, their leader revealed his secret weapon. With the press of a button, a high-voltage electric charge shot through the spears, paralyzing Hellboy and leaving him helpless in the river. At that moment, the knight's leader dismounted and approached Hellboy to decapitate him. But in a surprising twist, it was the leader's head that got cut off instead. When Hellboy emerged from the river, he saw that the giants had torn the knights apart and were feasting on them. Hellboy stood watching from a distance, but suddenly a giant appeared from behind and attacked him. Hellboy barely dodged the first strike, but the giant hit him with the back of his hand, sending him flying. Another giant then attacked Hellboy, leaving him running from 2 giants. As he ran, Hellboy uprooted a tree and threw it at one of the giants, hitting him in the eye. He climbed onto the injured giant to finish him off, but another giant approached. Hellboy used their lack of intelligence against them, causing one giant to accidentally kill the other. As soon as Hellboy stood back up, a 3rd giant beated him, sending him flying away again. Another giant charged at Hellboy, but he gathered his strength and bravely stood his ground, punching the giant in the eye and making it explode. The giant screamed in pain, lost its balance, and stumbled over a tree. At that moment, Hellboy uprooted another tree and used the giant's weight as it fell to drive the tree through its body, killing it. At that moment, the 2nd giant attacked Hellboy. Hellboy tried to dodge the giant's strikes, but the giant kicked him, sending him flying away again. Fortunately, Hellboy found a long sword nearby, one belonging to the giants. Hellboy used all his strength to lift the sword, swinging it, and slicing off the giant's arm with the first blow. With the second strike, he split the giant's head in two. After the battle was over, Hellboy collapsed to the ground from exhaustion. In a mysterious place, a group of dark creatures was plotting to bring Nimue back to life. A demonic pig stormed a church, killing everyone inside except for one last monk. The pig took the remaining monk to a specific room, where they found one of the boxes containing Nimue's body parts. To break the seal, the monk needed to recite a specific incantation, but he refused. The pig then reached into the monk's mouth, ripped out his tongue, and attached it to his own. In a horrific voice, the pig recited the incantation, and the box responded. The seal broke, and Nimue, who had been buried for 1,000 years, was freed. The demonic pig managed to find many parts of Nimue's body, collecting them piece by piece. Meanwhile, Hellboy woke up from the coma he was in, saved by his closest friend Alice, who had her own special abilities. That's why they had such a close bond. A few minutes later, Hellboy's father arrived and informed him that the dark creatures were planning to bring Nimue back to life. He also introduced Hellboy to Colonel Daimyo, who would assist him in his next mission. Colonel Daimyo had supernatural abilities as well, and their mission was to prevent Nimue's return. The group immediately began their second mission. The group went to the Osiris Club because they had buried a part of Nimue's body there. But as soon as they arrived, they found the club turned into a massacre. At that moment, Alice used her power to help them communicate with the spirit of the club's director. The spirit told them that Nimue was searching for her king, and if she found him, the entire world would be destroyed. The spirit then vanished. Seconds later, they heard a strange noise coming from one of the rooms. Hellboy, in a mad rush, ran towards the source of the sound and was shocked to find the demonic pig standing right in front of him. With one blow, Hellboy smashed the box in the pig's hands and found the final part of Nimue's body inside. He continued attacking the pig. Suddenly, Nimue appeared in front of Hellboy, but she didn't attack him. Instead, she sensed the demonic power within him. Nimue offered Hellboy the chance to become her king, promising that together they could rule the world. Hellboy was momentarily enchanted by Nimue's words, but Daimyo snapped him out of it just in time. Nimue disappeared within seconds, taking the demonic pig with her. Hellboy then recalled who the demonic pig was. A flashback to 20 years ago. The demonic pig wanted to live among humans, so he disguised himself as a child. However, Hellboy saw through the disguise, and the pig managed to escape through a chimney. Ever since, the pig had sought revenge on Hellboy for ruining his chance to live in the human world. That's why he wanted to bring Nimue back to life. After gathering all her parts, Nimue, the Blood Queen, was resurrected through dark rituals, and she was ready to unleash her revenge on humanity. Meanwhile, Hellboy returned to the headquarters and confronted his father. Hellboy argued because he had discovered that he wasn't really his biological son. At that point, his father told him the entire story. At the end of World War II, the Nazis were on the verge of defeat. Desperate, they turned to their last resort, their secret weapon. They summoned dark magic and opened gates to hell, but the Allied forces attacked them, wiping out everyone present. Suddenly, a demon child emerged from the portal. That child was a young Hellboy. Professor Brutenholm found him and decided to take him in as his own, raising Hellboy and leading him to believe that he was his real father. Hellboy, enraged, accused Brutenholm of adopting him only to use him as a weapon, just like the Nazis had intended, not out of love. Furious, Hellboy stormed out of his father's office. As soon as he stepped into the elevator, the surroundings transformed, and he found himself alone in a thick fog. A wooden house with legs began walking toward him, and Hellboy realized that he had been pulled into the illusion of the witch, Baba Yaga. Baba Yaga, a powerful witch who ate children, had once been confronted by Hellboy, and he had taken out one of her eyes. Now, Baba Yaga offered Hellboy a deal. She would tell him where Nimue was, but only if he gave her one of his eyes in return. Hellboy agreed to the deal to get the information he needed. Once he learned Nimue's location, he told Baba Yaga that he would give her his eye, but didn't specify when. He added that she can take it from his corpse when he's dead. Then he went and left Baba Yaga. Baba Yaga twisted like a snake and attacked Hellboy, but he was much stronger than her and managed to defeat her. Just before he could finish her off, Baba Yaga cast a spell on the house, making it tilt, and she flung Hellboy out. When he landed, he found himself back in his father's office, dazed, damaging the office. Hellboy now knew where Nimue was, so he gathered his team and headed to the location. Nimue was in a place called Pandemonium Hill, standing under the same tree where she had been killed 1,000 years ago. There, she cut her hands with a dagger and returned the blood she had stored in that tree before her death. As soon as her blood returned to her, all her wounds healed, and she regained her full strength. She also freed all the demons that had been sealed with her at the time of her death, and they all bowed before her, welcoming their queen's return. At the same time, Hellboy and his team arrived at Nimue's location. However, Nimue had set traps everywhere in anticipation of their arrival. Suddenly, a horde of zombies attacked them, and Hellboy and his team had to fight them off. As the number of zombies grew, they were overwhelmed and trapped. At that moment, Daimyo spoke to Hellboy, telling him that he and Alice would handle the zombies and that Hellboy needed to stop Nimue. Hellboy surprised Nimue by shooting her in the face with a giant gun. Although the shot blew off half her face and popped out her eyes, she didn't die because normal weapons had no effect on her. Her wounds healed in seconds, and her face returned to normal. Nimue knocked the gun out of Hellboy's hands and used her magic to fling him into the air. But instead of killing him, Nimue offered him her deal again, saying that if he became her king, they would rule the world together and build a new world after wiping out all humans. Hellboy refused her offer, and when Alice arrived to help him, Nimue cursed her with a spell. Nimue declared that she would kill everyone Hellboy cared about to push him over the edge, forcing him to lose control and unleash the demon within him. Afterward, Hellboy discovered the grave of the wizard Merlin and sought his help to save Alice from Nimue's curse. Merlin revealed another truth Hellboy hadn't known. Hellboy wasn't just the son of a demon. He had royal blood because his mother was the daughter of the last king of the bloodline. His mother had been deceived by the demon and married him, and when Hellboy was born, it was foretold that he would bring about the end of the world. Merlin used Hellboy's blood to summon King Arthur's sword, one of his most prized treasures. Arthur's sword was the only weapon that could kill Nimue. When Hellboy took the sword, he had a vision. In the vision, he was holding a sword of fire, with a crown of fire above his head, riding a fearsome dragon flying through the sky. The world below was burning. As he dismounted from the dragon, he used the sword to kill all the humans. Hellboy quickly dropped the sword after seeing the vision, unable to accept becoming the demon he saw in the vision. Meanwhile, Nimue arrived in the city and began spreading the plague among humans. She went to the Bureau of Paranormal Research and tore it apart. When Hellboy arrived at the office, he found it in ruins and was furious about what he saw. He immediately ran to find Nimue, having seen her on the news. The city was shrouded in clouds, resembling a city of the dead, with demons spread throughout the area. Hellboy arrived at a church in the city where he encountered the demonic pig, now larger and stronger due to the immense power Nimue had granted it after she restored her blood. Even bullets had no effect on it. At that moment, the demonic pig attacked Hellboy. Hellboy didn't avoid the attack and fought back, resulting in a fierce clash. However, the demonic pig was stronger and easily threw Hellboy aside. The two continued to battle, with the pig dominating the fight and severely injuring Hellboy. During the fight, the pig impaled Hellboy with its horns. Daimyo intervened to help his friend before he could be killed, pulling out a strange syringe from his pocket and injecting himself. Daimyo began to transform. His hands grew claws, and his body changed piece by piece until he turned into a monstrous form. Daimyo attacked the pig, but it was still too powerful and threw him aside. In that moment, Hellboy gathered his strength and teamed up with Daimyo to defeat the pig. Despite their combined efforts, the pig proved too strong for them both. It lifted a boulder, preparing to crush Hellboy with it. But Nimue intervened at the last moment, stopping the pig from killing Hellboy. She explained that she wanted to push Hellboy to his limits, not kill him. When the pig protested, Nimue took back the power she had given him, causing his body to shrink until he reverted to the form of a piglet. Afterward, Nimue attacked Hellboy and shattered the ground beneath him. They discovered that the church was built over King Arthur's tomb. Despite all her attempts, Nimue couldn't pull the sword from the stone because she didn't want to destroy the world. At that moment, Nimue used her last resort and brought in Hellboy's father, killing him in front of Hellboy. This act was enough to push Hellboy out of control. In a moment of rage, he pulled the sword from the stone, and it transformed into a fiery blade. Hellboy looked at the sword with a strange smile. The horns, representing demonic power, grew back as the sword unleashed the malevolence that had been buried for years, causing him to lose control completely. With his demonic form returning, the gates of hell opened once more, unleashing a large number of terrifying demons that began slaughtering humans in gruesome ways. Some of the demons were so massive they destroyed giant bridges. At that time, Alice revived Hellboy's father's spirit using her strange abilities. The spirit spoke to Hellboy, and he regained his sanity. In a final confrontation, Hellboy struck Nimue with the sword, cutting her in half, and then drove the sword into the ground, sending all the demons back to hell, including Nimue. The gates were sealed, and everything returned to normal. After the battle, Hellboy discarded his demonic horns and destroyed them in volcanic fire to prevent their return. At the end, He bid farewell to his son, expressing that adopting him was the best decision he had ever made. Confirming his father's love, he chose to follow his path and collaborate with his allies to protect humanity. The movie ends. If you liked the video, subscribe to the channel and activate the notification button. See ya!